Delano's here with business. We're going to start in a moment with Wells Fargo. But first of all, Delano, do you like Marmite?
Not at all.
Can't stand it. I don't like it either. It's just other
Shame on you.
Other
You're
Brits out there who like Marmite. Anyway.
That's right, to Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo, let's get back to that.
John Stumpf, the CEO, is leaving with immediate effect. His departure comes just 5 weeks after regulators disclosed that as many as 2 million fraudulent accounts had been created. This as employees of the bank were under pressure to meet sales targets. The roles of chairman and CEO have now been split, and 2 long-standing insiders have been named. But the appointment of Tim Sloan as chief executive drew almost immediate political backlash. Maxine Waters, a Democratic member of the House Financial Services Committee, said Tim Sloan was also culpable in the recent scandal. Mr. Stumpf, meanwhile, says he will not be selling his stock options until the ongoing investigation into fake accounts is completed. So far, he's forfeited $40 million in pay and has apologized for the bank's conduct. Moving on now, and Samsung shares are trading in the green for the first time in 4 days. The company's stock has been battered since it announced it would halt production of the Galaxy Note 7 phone. This after reports emerged of fires starting from defective batteries in replacement devices. Consumers around the world have now started handing back their phones.
I've gone down to the Samsung Edge 7. The Edge 7. I just replaced. They offered $250. Discount to take it, and then I'm getting a refund into my bank account for the other one.
Yeah. So I have to return it. I don't want, but it's about safe, so I have no choice.
What about the markets then, Delano? How are they doing?
Well, Stuart, it's a negative picture at this hour over in Asia. Markets in China shrugged off negative data, which showed exports tumble 10% year-on-year in dollar terms. The Shanghai Composite completely flat on that news. The Hang Seng over in Hong Kong trading down over 1.5% at this hour. Stocks have just begun the trading day here in Europe, and we are seeing all the main indices opening in negative territory at this hour. Moving on now, the British government has been trying to provide more clarity about its priorities as it pushes ahead with Brexit proceedings. Prime Minister Theresa May told members of Parliament that she would work to maintain maximum possible access to the European single market after leaving the EU. Investors have been increasingly worried that she's placing immigration control before economics. Robert Zoellick, former president of the World Bank, told France 24 that the Brexit will pose risks to both British and European economies. Take a listen.
I think the British government and the British people now have a choice. They can try to become a true global economy, an Atlantic Singapore, with free trade and trying to compete globally, or they can become Little England. And some of the tendencies I see move a little bit more towards the Little England than the global player. But it's not only up to them. This is where I've urged the United States to talk about trade agreements with Britain as well as with the EU to try to push both towards the recognition that we need an international Britain, we need transatlantic relations with Europe and Britain, and I worry a little bit that the European politics are moving towards contention as opposed to trying to find a win-win solution.
And finally, things seem to be looking up for the French auto sector. Renault has announced it will be creating 1,000 new jobs this year, this on the back of 3,000 posts which were created in 2015. But unions say they aren't entirely pleased. Brian Quinn reports.
From temps to employees, these 2 workers are among those benefiting from a wave of hiring at Renault this year. On the assembly line here at one of the company's plants in northwest France, they're not the only ones.
We're part of the half of the line that's been brought on as employees. The rest are temps. It's a decent amount now. A year ago, there were more temps than employees.
The company has just announced 1,000 new hires as sales are growing, from 510,000 vehicles in 2012 to 740,000 this year. 3 years ago, Renault was in dire straits. Its employees forced to accept a competitiveness plan that saw wages frozen, hours increased, and significant job cuts. Necessary measures, according to managers.
The agreements in 2013 were definitely necessary. They're what allowed Renault to catch its breath and press forward. And as for this factory, its future was really uncertain in 2013. Today, our future is secure.
Since the plan, Renault has hired 3,000 people but seen 9,000 departures for a net loss of 6,800 jobs. Unions say the cuts are deeply felt in the factories.
Renault is selling more and more cars, making more and more profit, but in the factories you feel the insecurity. Today, just at this site, there are 2,000 temps filling permanent posts.
A new competitiveness plan is currently being negotiated. Unions plan to use the opportunity to push for new permanent hires.
More business news later on in the day here on France 24. I'll hand it back to you now.
Thank you very much, Delano.